All right. I used to think that fade out was trippy, which is why I always call it a trippy fade out at the beginning of every episode. But now that I listen back to it, it's not that trippy at all. My standards of trippiness have gone up significantly in recent times. So I need to revamp that. I need to make it properly trippy for the next time. But for now, here we are, episode 18 of Talk Like No One's Listening. Is anyone listening yet? I don't know. So here we are. I'm back in LA from a trip I recently took to Australia and New Zealand. I was on tour. I wasn't on tour personally, but I was traveling on tour for the Post Malone Jaden Smith tour of Australia and New Zealand. I was there for about 3 weeks or so, almost 3 weeks. And that was my first time to Australia. So this will somewhat be like a travel blog type of episode. But since I'm talking and it's not writing, I guess it's not a blog, is it? I'm just talking about my travels and interesting things that I saw and experienced along the way, going all the way to the other side of the planet. Which, the funny thing about Australia and New Zealand is that because everybody speaks English and you see so many familiar things in Australia, like, you see McDonald's, you see Starbucks, you see clothing stores, you see all the name brands and everything, you don't feel like you're in a foreign place. So often, almost every day, I would just be there and forget that I was over there. It just was like this weird parallel reality of America almost. Like, I guess what it's like when I went to Canada. It felt like that, where I'm not in the same place, but it's not really different enough. And there was enough people around me that were American also, so that I wasn't hearing the Australian accent all the time. I was hearing more of the American accent. So it was almost like I felt like I was in LA and there just happened to be a bunch of Australian people around for some reason. So, good times though. This was my first time traveling overseas for work. I've been international because I went to Canada. I guess that technically counts. But as far as leaving the North American continent, this was my first. And it was a pretty good trip, I must say. Had a great time. Although my experience of Australia is through the lens of being there for work on a tour of some high-profile music artists. So it wasn't like a tourist experience. I was there working, so I got to go to cool places, meet a lot of cool people, and just see things from a perspective that most people don't, which I'll go into a little bit. Not too much, but I would say it was great for me to see night after night all the shows that we were doing, to see how the crowd reactions were on the other side of the world, and to see that many nights it was better energy than what I've seen from shows in America. And from what I gathered from talking with some locals is that for them to see a concert in their hometown, city, country, whatever, from some artists that are from America, from very far away, it's much more of a big deal because it's just not as likely that artists are going to go all the way to Australia and tour. So it makes it that much more of a rare event for all the people that go to these concerts. So when they are there and the show is happening, it means a lot more to them. And so they are just putting out that much more energy into the response of the music. And it was awesome. It was good to see. That's what I've experienced last year when I was on the KOD tour with Jaden, that spending all my time or most of my time in the studio working on these songs that will eventually come out to the world, it's good to be on that other side of the music, on the receiving end of it, so you get a better sense of what, while you're working on it in the studio, you have a better sense of how it will be received, because you've had that time and experience to be right there in the crowd at a venue and see what types of, from song to song, you see the different energy and reaction of the crowd, so you get a feel of how this is all going to work out. I feel like I've already had a bit of that sensibility from way back, like when I started in music, when I was like 20 and I was going to college and I was DJing. That was the first thing that got me down this path of music, and that's something that DJing definitely is a skill that it gives you this extra sense of feeling the energy of a crowd, because that's just, to be a good DJ, you have to be able to develop that sense. You have to be able to feel from song to song as you're playing songs, what is the energy of the crowd? How are they responding to it? So that at any given moment, am I losing the energy of the crowd, or is it building? Is it staying the same? So with every next song that you decide to put on, you will, if you're skilled, you will know what's going to work for the next song. Out of all the possible songs you could play, that, okay, they are feeling what's going on right now. So I'm going to give them more of this feeling, or I'm going to give them an even more like higher energy version of what they're already reacting to. And then as soon as you feel like they've passed on from that energy or from that vibe of whatever song you're playing, then it's time to move on. Then you start to have that sense of like, okay, let's shift it slightly. And then over time, when you just get good at DJing, you just know how to curate this set of music that you're going to DJ to guide the crowd through this little journey that you're going to take them on, and keep them locked in with you on this journey. That's the key, is to to just get them locked into what you're doing and keep them engaged. When you play the wrong song at the wrong moment, that's when the spell wears off. People snap out of it. They stop dancing. They think, where's my friend at? Oh, let's go get another drink. Oh, let's go outside and smoke, or just anything besides let's stay here on the dance floor. And, so when you are able to continue and just hold them and keep them there locked in, that's what gets you work. That's what keeps you DJing night after night. That's what makes people want to pay attention to your name when they hear that you're DJing. They're like, oh, that girl, guy, whatever that's somebody that I want to see again. And that's how you continue to build and get better and better. And that was my first lesson that I learned as far as understanding audience reaction and response to music, to your creative decisions of music. And so to see it here for all these shows night after night, that's another layer of it, because you're not DJing other people's music. It's like it's Post Malone and Jaden and Tyler Yahweh, who was the third artist on the lineup. it was for them, they're playing their own music. So for them, then the feedback to come back with, or the notes for them to come away with after these shows, is to understand within their own music and their own live show performance what works for them and for their audience. Are they getting the reactions that they want? What are the things that they're doing that are getting the positive reactions that they want? And what are the things that they could possibly improve on? But I would say overall, it was a really good tour. Everyone did a great job performing wise. So, of course you can always improve, but everybody, night after night, they were doing a great job. They were killing it. They were definitely doing the crowd. They were giving the crowd a proper show, giving them their money's worth. Definitely gaining fans that are that much more dedicated fans to them after seeing what they give to them in a live show. So I think that's really awesome for both. Awesome for the fans, awesome for the artist, and just cool to see internationally, what it means to be a music artist. It's when you're, at least speaking for me, just being in LA most of the time, and I don't really get out much when I'm in LA. I work or I'm at home. And so I kind of get out of touch here and there with what's going on with music and people out there. So it's important for me also as an engineer to not to stray too far away from the outside world and what people are into, what they're feeling, and how things are shifting. Because the same thing of what I said with the whole DJing thing is that I don't DJ now, but I work on music that just goes out everywhere to the world. So now part of my audience is the whole world that's out there listening to this. So even if they are on the other side of the world, that's just as important as anybody here in America or in California, LA, whatever. It's important to just know and to pick up on that and be aware. This is, to me, working in music. For me, everyone, it means something different to everybody. Some people, it's just pure art. It's, for someone like Jaden, like music is a painting on a canvas. It's just his form of expression. It's his art. It's for him to express what he's feeling. He's not a pop artist. He's not making music to just try to get hit records and get on the charts. That's not a motivation. That's not what he's thinking about. That's not where he's creating from. He's creating from his imagination and from his heart, and he's creating music that he personally himself loves. He's making the music that he wants to be hearing. So for me, I'm not an artist, but I do create music and I'm part of the process. But my place where I operate from when I'm creating is, to me, it's like how I think about food. If I was a chef or something like that, it's like creativity, technical skill, like that stuff is a part of food also. When you go to nice restaurants, like they are trying to give you food that looks nice, presents nice, tastes good, all that's good for you. So there's always a key element in that people have to like it. People have to enjoy eating it. So for me, with music, regardless of all the creative and technical decisions that go into the music, at the end of the day, people have to enjoy it. For me, I want people to have this be an experience that they enjoy and they want to continue to enjoy over and over again. Then after that, the creative decisions and technical decisions to make it as best as it can be that comes secondary to it being an enjoyable experience. So I don't know why I was talking about that. So, I got to be real. I forgot what I was talking about. Um, but yeah, I think that's the thing. And music can mean different things to different people. And when you are collaborating together with different people, not everybody's on the same page. And that's just, that's just normal. People are people. They all think and feel the way they do. It's great if they can all be on the same page. But even if they're not, like, I'm not always on the same page with people I work with. But what I try to do is, they're, as an engineer for the most part, or even as a producer, I feel like the person that's creating the music, that's representing it, the artist and whatnot, it's all about what they want. To me, it's because they're the person whose name will be on the song or the album or whatever. So for it to be, to me, like successful music, or a successful, a successful project for them, it has to be true to them and what their intentions are and motivations and inspiration. But after that, let's try to make the best version of that. Let's start with them and where they want to take this. Then let's cater to that and let's custom make the production of this song be the best version that it can be. Best version, of course, that's subjective, but I think there are certain things that are objectively good and bad, just like with food. When I think about food, yeah, everybody has different tastes, and some people are picky and some people like to eat everything. But there are, obviously there's certain things that are pretty universal. It's like there's a certain limit to how much salt you put in food before it becomes way too salty and inedible, or any other ingredient, sweetness, spiciness, sourness. Like, some people are vegetarian. They don't want to taste anything that tastes like meat. Some people only want to eat meat. But everybody wants to eat something that has a fat content in it. Whether you're vegetarian or a meat eater, the taste and feeling of natural fats, like oils and stuff, like that is something that the body wants. The body wants a certain amount of salt, a certain amount of sweetness, a certain amount of sourness, but everybody wants a different amount. But there are certain things that people all around the world can somewhat agree on what tastes good. And I think that same thing applies to music. There are certain things in music that are universally thought of as preferable. So I try to find that middle ground, feel that middle ground, because to me it comes down to feeling. The thing that makes music universal is that it comes down to the feeling, because people have different ways of thinking all over the world. That's why you just have different genres of music. That comes from people thinking in different ways of creating. But the thing that why people enjoy music around the world is it's a feeling. Of course, you have to think to create it, to start putting it together in your mind that this will be a thing that you will create, you will record it, you will try to put it out to the world. There's like thought that has to go into that, but the receiving of it is a feeling process, just like eating is a feeling process. Yeah, you can think about food like if you're a food critic or you just really into food, and I don't want to say foodie because I hate that word, but if you're someone that's experienced and educated in real cuisine, when you try something, that is done well, the first initial thing is you eat it, you taste it, and you feel it. But then after that, and you think about what's happening, then you can appreciate another level of it. You can appreciate what went on in the creation of it, what was going on in the mind of the chef, in their preparation, in their ideas and their thinking, the creativity of it all. That comes after. And same thing for me, for music. It's like it has to feel good first, and then you start to think about and break down what's going on. But if you want to just think about it, I mean, you can, but I feel like that becomes that becomes a lot of work, a lot of mental work to just think about it all the time, which sometimes I can't turn that off just because I am a music professional. I can't turn off the thoughts, which oftentimes it ruins the experience sometimes because I can't just feel music for what it is. Sometimes I can't help but to think about what's going on and have a thought about something kind of turn me off from the feeling of it. That I talked about this before when I was previously when I was talking about my experience at Coachella. The first week I was there, when I was still wrapped up in my mentality of we're here for work and we got to make sure everything's for the show is perfect and we did everything right. So my mind state was in that state still after the show, and then I went on to try to go watch some other people's shows and people that I don't know anything about them or what they had to do, but still I'm watching their show with this judgmental filter of their show, of like trying to make their show perfect, even though it's not, I have nothing to do with it. But the thought of that, of me trying to judge it from this technical standpoint of their show, was getting in the way of me being able to just watch their show and enjoy it. And I was not having a great time. But the second week, after I had kind of gotten through that and I realized that was what was on my mind the first week, and I was able to let go and relax the second week, it was just total night and day difference. And then that was just another thing that showed me that there's a time and place. There's a time and place to be thinking and being critical and analytical about things, and there's a time to just shut it off. But of course, like I said, it's not easy. Sometimes I just can't shut it off. I can't help it, which that's the gift and the curse. Because when things are good, when I see something that's great, I can appreciate it on like 3 or 4 more levels than just someone that's just enjoying it on a feeling. So it goes both ways, like I said. Let's see. Australia. That's right. That's what I was talking about. I went to Australia, also went to New Zealand. We went to do 2 shows in Auckland, New Zealand, and I think the previous episode when I went over the Iris is Coming EP, I spoke a little bit about one of the producers, Yuki, who is from New Zealand. He's not from Auckland, but he's from small town a few hours away from there. And so he was able to meet up with us while we were in Auckland, and that was good to see him because just hadn't seen him in a while, and plus he had produced, a good amount of the songs that are upcoming on this album. So for him it's crazy to think about his story again, to be an 18-year-old that made his way to LA to meet the right people to be able to have this working relationship with Jaden, to be able to work on his album was crazy. And then also for him to for us to end up going to New Zealand for this tour and then to meet up with him and for him to come hang out with us and be at the show and watch the show happen where Jaden's performing one of the songs that he produced in a sold out arena in his home country. Like, that's crazy. I can't imagine if that was me. I'd be losing my mind. I mean, I wasn't doing shit when I was 18, literally. I did not have any big dreams or goals or motivations to do anything in life until I was like in my 30s. And I'm 38, so I haven't been very like motivated and focused for very long. But he's doing that and he's only 18 and he's already made something happen very significant. So the album's not out yet, but it will be, I think, this summer. I don't know the exact date. But to be able to say that you've produced a good amount of songs on an album of this level at 18, that's a pretty big achievement, I'd say. So I was happy for him to be able to experience that and see all that. And I know it's good must be good motivation to just keep going and keep pushing and keep working and being focused on the dream of just being able to do music for fun and for a living and for life. And it's like, what could be better to just be doing the thing that you want to be doing more than anything else, to be able to do that on a professional level on your own terms. That's what it's all about, essentially. And yeah, so I came back from the trip, just, I don't know what I came back with exactly. I thought I was going to just start talking about this and I was going to have some big epiphany and insight about my trip coming back. But I don't know. I don't know if it's there yet. Maybe it'll hit me later. But being able to do something like that as part of my work, my job, my profession, to be able to travel like that to some place that I probably would not, almost probably never go to on my own, just like for a vacation, like that might not ever happen. So for me, I'm very fortunate that I got to go and experience something like that. And, for me, it's like, obviously that's a sign for myself to say, oh, okay, you are doing something right. You're on the right path. You're doing basically what you should be doing. Just keep doing what you're doing. Keep working hard. Keep moving forward. Keep trying to do the best you can and grow and learn. And part of this trip, obviously, is in itself, it helps with that, because to have just life experiences in general will help feed into the experience that you have towards your profession or whatever it is that you do. So for me, staying in LA all the time, just going from home to the studio back and forth, like that's not much of a life experience. That's super limited. Cause when I'm here in LA, I don't do a lot. I really just work and I'm at home. Like I don't go out. So to do something like that is just very refreshing, very, very energizing, and just gives me more motivation to keep doing what I'm doing and to know that I'm out there doing that kind of work for a reason. So it's something not that I'm lacking self-confidence, but it helps to know that I know what I'm doing. Like I can say that, feel strong about that. I know what I'm doing and I can handle myself and I can handle situations that come up in this, and I know how to deliver professional work. So there's, many times in the course of my career so far of 10 years where it's almost every year where I've spoken about it before, but yeah, it's almost every year where I just hit this low point of, and it might not even be it might even be like while I'm like really busy in the thick of work that I hit this low point of questioning what I'm doing and just feeling like not comfortable and feeling that I have to keep moving and I have to change and I have to do something new and I have to keep evolving. And it makes me feel like, it makes me just, question, is what I'm doing now the thing that I'm supposed to be doing? Like career-wise in general. Like sometimes when life gets really serious in my personal life, it makes me feel like what is music? Why am I doing this? Does this mean anything at all? Like there's serious things happening in the world. I want to help the world, but I'm just engineering music in a studio. Like I'm not doing anything. But when I go across the world and see people react to music the way they do and to see them just see their favorite artist live in person and go crazy and just feel like they've just experienced some kind of miracle, then I get it. Then I'm like, oh, okay. I mean, this is a big deal. Music is a big deal for people. This is, for a lot of people, this is their life. You know, without the music, you are taking away a very significant part of their experience. And like, especially for someone like Yuki, who I talked about, it's like he's on his way to living his dream of music because music exists, and he had this dream of being able to be a producer and an artist and work with certain people that he's a fan of and meet somebody that he is a fan of in Jaden, and by by good luck, or not even good luck, by hard work, he was able to achieve part of this dream and start down this path. So then I that kind of thing gives me confidence back that even though I am doing something to me that's as simple as just working in a studio on music, it is affecting people's lives in a positive way, and there's a lot of power behind that. So I feel like this was a good trip for me, good timing for me to have this at this point of my life and career, to go out and see what is the result of my work. I mean, if it's the part of the work that I'm contributing to, I'm not the person on stage. No one's buying a ticket to come see me. But I am helping to bring that out into the world. And I am putting my stamp on it. I'm creating it in the way that only I would create it. I'm working with people like Jaden, and everything is from his mind, from his vision. He'll give me his notes and his input about what he wants, and then I interpret it. So part of that comes from me, because it's up to me to decide to, what does that actually mean? What does it actually sound like when he tells me something? And I'll create it. He'll tell me yes or no or whatever, give me more feedback, but that's my portion that I get to contribute. So when I get to see it and hear it in an arena, in a venue like that, that's about, that's really what it is. Then you really hear it for what it really is. And it's something for me, for perspective of just as an engineer, because what most of the time I am listening to music on small systems. I'm in the studio, which of course people always want to play it loud there. So that's one thing, but you're in a studio that's a treated room. So that's the best version of listening to it loud. And then otherwise I'm listening to my car, headphones, at my home studio, things like that, where it's generally quiet. So when you hear it out in the world, in an arena, sold out arena with the crowd and a loud sound system, and you hear it where it's just a small picture that gets blown up to a giant billboard, then you're like, oh shit, that's what it looks like. So it's good for that perspective to bring that into my awareness while I'm in the studio working also. Because there were a lot of things that I heard when I'm listening to it. There are some things where most of it to me, I'm like, okay, it sounds good. This is what it needs to sound like. But there are also a couple of things that I heard where I made adjustments because some of these songs are new songs that aren't even finished. Some of the songs that he was performing, it's new material, so it's not even mixed and mastered. So those were the things that I heard when he would perform it. Then I hear it in the arena. Then okay, this needs to be adjusted a little bit. I need to EQ a little bit here and there. I need to make this a little bit punchier with the drums or something, make it really just knock a little bit harder in that arena. So it's good to know just that's one extreme on the spectrum of like listening environments. But that's an important one. That's the one thing that people are paying good money to go and experience it on that level. So you want to make it right. And an arena, it can be tricky because it's a big indoor room. So of course there's a lot of it's indoors, so it's enclosed. So a lot of the sound is bouncing around. So you have to account for what that will sound like. Overall, it sounded good. The guys that were the front of house mixers did a good job, and for the most part, everything sounded great in there. But it is a very specific listening environment, so you have to be able to adjust for that and account for what those sound like. And then, people do sound check early in the day to an empty arena, but that's going to be different from later that night when the arena is full with people. It's not going to sound the same. So I give it up to the guys that do front house mixing, live mixing, because that's got to be tough. I can't say that I envy them because being on the road all the time, that takes. Already just to work in music in general takes a specific type of personality. But to want to do that on the road, that's like a whole another thing. So I give it up to those guys. It's a tough job. But yeah, I feel like I've gone in the last few years. I've gone through this journey of really not being in love with music, but continuing to work in music because it's just as a job, just as a thing to make money. And that was a time when I was just doing it just to make the money, and I really had lost my personal relationship with music. Had just been just kind of dissolved for a while, just because the job, you get burnt out on a job, and the job happens to be music. So music is the job. So I get burnt out on music when I get burnt out on the job. So I was able to slowly get back a little bit at a time my love for music. It's still, when things get busy and hectic with work, it gets tough. But in general, overall, the last few years, I've slowly gotten back to where I really enjoy music the way I used to. I like to listen to music for fun now. As weird as that may sound, where it's a long period of me just absolutely not being interested in hearing music at all. But it's been getting better and better, and then trips like this, one of the things that really help out a lot to Because, yeah, you see, when you're at a concert and you're like, everybody's having a great time. What the fuck is wrong with me? So, even though I already was feeling good, I was already enjoying myself, but even more so just to be in the crowds night after night and to see that, no, this is meant to be fun. This is meant to be enjoyed. So if you're not enjoying it, that's your fault. That's your problem. So figure it out. So, and I did figure it out. And it's interesting going through that. It definitely was something that was something I had to do internally. And it really was nothing to do with the music. It was my personal bias, I guess, my personal just reaction to things that were happening to me in life and how I felt. And when I had to think about that, why do I feel the way I do when work stresses me out and people stress me out and things like that? I have to think about, why do these things get me worked up or stressed out or upset or whatever? And then, I think about it, I go into it, and then I just realize it's really just because of me, of how I'm thinking, my perspective, based on my life experience. So in that way, I'm able to examine myself, learn about myself, and understand that I don't have to think the way that I think as far as the things that are bringing me down. Like, I don't have to have those opinions and biases which aren't really helpful to me. All they're doing is having me react in negative ways to things in life. So once, you can understand that and you can kind of start to peel away these layers that have built up over your life, then you just can learn to just enjoy life in general a lot more, which I have. So as tough as this job has been over the years, I'm glad that it's been tough. I think you need tough times. You need tough times to really know who you are. If you never have tough times, I mean, that can be a blessing, but it's also you might not really know who you are if you're not tested in that way. Because being tested, it forces you to think about who you really are. Why am I doing what I'm doing? Why do I want to do this? And it's hard. When I talk to people that are interested in getting into music and they don't have any experience and they want advice, it's hard for me to give them like very positive. Well, like, I don't want to give them false hope. I don't want to give them like this false enthusiasm. Like, yeah, it's great, you should do it. I usually don't like to tell them that, but it's hard to just say, no, don't do it. Also, the people that are going to do something like this, they're the type of people that are going to do it and they're going to make it regardless. But, a lot of people, they could be doing it, but maybe something early on discourages them and they never come back to it and they give up, which is too bad. But that's just what it is. If you're that type of person that can get discouraged easy and give up and just assume that, I tried, that's, it's not going to work out, then this is just not for you. Because, like I said, it takes a certain type of person to be successful in music at any level, or at any whatever you do, whether it's engineering, being an artist, a songwriter, producer, being someone who works on the road, being a tour manager, this and that. There's like lots of different aspects to it, but any one of those jobs takes a very specific person to be able to pursue it and be successful at it. So if you're one of those people that is curious, or maybe you already are working, but maybe you're still new to it, so you're still figuring things out and you're not sure about your future. It Sorry, I'm just like popping the mic like that. Just yeah, you have to, when things get tough, you have to try to endure it as best as you can, because sometimes that next like big opportunity that you're looking for is just right after this difficult part. That's been my experience. Is like you have to just keep going even though it sucks, and maybe you're working for somebody that's an asshole and they're not treating you right or whatever. You have to know that you are going to have to go through these like shitty moments from time to time to get to the good parts. It's never going to be just like smooth sailing the whole way. So when you hit those pockets and you're like doubting it and you're feeling like, what the fuck am I doing? Keep going, of course, but you also have to be aware of what are you trying to do and why are you trying to do it. So you don't want to just endure through some hard shit for no reason without any plan. Have some kind of plan, not too detailed, because you can't really plan the way things work out in life in general. So have a plan that feels right for you and keep focusing on that, and know that when you're going through tough times that you're trying to achieve this thing in the, eventually you have this goal that you're trying to achieve, and you're trying to navigate yourself towards this goal. And you might not know how you're going to get from A to B, and don't worry about that, because I don't know, I had no plans of ever going to Australia, but it happened all because of work. I didn't ever think it would be something through work that would make that happen, but is what happened. So just, focus on the thing that you want to do and educate yourself as much as possible, because there's so much to know. Knowledge is so important because knowledge is so hidden in this world, and in music, in the music world, and in life in general. Knowledge of what's really going on is always hidden. So you have to take it upon yourself to really learn what's going on, so when you are going through experiences and meeting people, that you just can read what's going on, so you're not leading yourself down the wrong path, or you're not going to give too much of your energy to the wrong place. That's going to just suck your energy and you're going to have nothing left for yourself. That can happen too, because you might think you're working for a certain client or a project that's going to be the thing that's going to get you to where you want, and then you end up getting taken advantage of because people see that you're so eager to work and give your energy that they'll just, okay, let me just take all your energy, give you nothing in return, or almost nothing in return. So you got to know when you're being taken advantage of, and you got to stand up for yourself, because no one else will ever, almost never. So, yeah, but don't ever get complacent with yourself. Like, always don't stop learning about anything. Just whatever it is, whether it's related to your work or not, just don't stop learning. That's been, for me, that's been key, is because it's not always the things you learn about your job that help you. That's not always the knowledge that helps you with your job. Sometimes you need knowledge of the world outside of what you do to get that perspective, to know what's going on and what you should be doing. Like, I get that all the time when I hear about people working in other industries. Music is one of the weirdest ones. It's still just like this Wild West type of thing where so many things, just rules and standards don't apply. And that's good and bad. But when you hear good things about other industries where things are more standardized as far as people getting paid what they should be, getting treated how they should be, getting promoted how they should be, or things like that. When you just hear, oh, okay, that sounds nice, but that doesn't happen for us in music, then okay, we're getting a shitty deal over here. But if you can't have nothing else to compare it to, then you don't know where you stand. And it happens both ways. You got to know when you have it good, so you don't take it for granted. And you got to know when you have it bad, so you know how to get out of a bad situation. So, yeah, just listen to a podcast, read a book, read a blog, something. Get more plugins, learn how to do more shit, watch some YouTube videos about some engineering shit that you didn't know before. I learn stuff still all the time. I've there's plugins that are well known, widely used plugins that I still have never touched. And every once in a while, yeah, I'll get on to something new and I'll figure it out and I'll learn about it and I'll think about something that I didn't know before. I'll see another engineer, producer, and see something that they do and be, oh, they got a cool trick. That's something I haven't thought of. Whatever you can, just always pull in more and more information. I think that for me is just a key to navigating through life. It's just to always just never stop learning. School is not really school. Life is school. Okay. How about I do this? I'm doing a podcast where I just talk, and the only sound source that you're getting is just my voice. But even with that, me being an engineer, I thought, hey, let me engineer. So, whether you hear the difference or not, in as far as quality or whatnot, I'll tell you what I'm doing just to give you an idea. You can compare me to other podcasts, or I think about this sometimes. What are other podcasters doing as far as engineering? As far as what are they using to record themselves? How are they processing it? What kind of mic are these? I mean, I know what a lot of people are using the same mic that I'm using, the SM7, the Shure SM7, which is, it's perfectly suited for this type of application. So I have this microphone, Shure SM7, and I have an Apollo Twin Mark II interface. So the microphone is going into the Apollo, and cool thing about Apollo interfaces is that they have this feature of unison mic pre's, where it's a mic pre that allows you to put in one of their plugins that is an emulation of some hardware analog outboard gear. So mic pre's, EQs, compressors based off real world devices. So you get to record your source through these plugins. So it's, you get the sound of whatever it is that you pick. So for me, specifically now, I've tried a few different things and I'll keep changing it up. But what I'm doing right now is I'm using this Unison plugin called the Century Tube Channel Strip, which is a channel strip that's a preamp, equalizer, compressor, and then a final output gain stage. So I'm running it through that. I'm not doing any EQ. I'm doing a tiny bit of compression, and the compressor is a opto leveler compressor, which is more of a smooth sounding compressor. So that's happening. And then on the actual record track, I have a Slate Digital virtual mix rack plug-in. And in that rack, I have their London virtual tube module. And then that's, the London tube module that's giving it a little bit of tube analog like color to it, warmth. Then after that, I'm using their Revival module, which is giving a bit more presence and thickness. And then after that, I'm using their FGN British Neve emulation EQ just to bring a little bit more of the presence out. And then after that, I have their U73B compressor, which is another, I guess, tube opto smooth leveling compressor. I don't know why. Okay. But then after that, I thought, okay, let me just go crazy. Let me just have the most over-engineered podcast vocal ever. Then there's an EQ. I'm just kind of rolling off some of the low end, a tiny bit more compression, but this time it's I'm using an isotope ozone plugin after the virtual mix rack, and in that I have an equalizer module just rolling off the low end. Then I have the vintage compressor with a very fast setting of attack and release just to catch peaks a little bit more. And that's just all the compressors that I'm using. They're all just touching just a little bit, so I'm not compressing like crazy, but just trying to keep it uniform throughout the whole time I'm talking. All right, sorry. Some reason it stopped recording. I didn't mean to cut it there. Next in the Ozone plugin, the next module I have is the dynamic EQ. And that is something that is a modern feature as far as dynamic EQs haven't been around for a long time. There are certain type of dynamic control that hasn't been around very long. So, but now that it exists, is one of the things that I can't do without. I love it because it's like a compressor to level out certain things, but you just do it by specific frequencies. Like it's a dynamic EQ. So it's a mix. It's a hybrid mix of a EQ and a compressor, which to me it's like one of my favorite things for engineering and mixing in general. So what it allows you to do is, even though I'm pretty monotone, so the frequency spectrum of my voice is pretty much going to stay the same, but occasionally it's going to change here and there. But even though still it is mostly the same, there's basically certain frequencies I've picked out in my voice that through this microphone at least, these are the frequencies that I pulled out that need to be tucked a little bit more. And the thing that I like about dynamic EQ is that it's not just pulling down those frequencies 100% of the time. It's dependent on how loud those frequencies get. And so when they go past the threshold, then it's like a compressor, then they get turned down more. So it's a way to reduce certain frequencies only when needed. So for me right now, that is 200 hertz, 550 hertz, and 1100 hertz. Those are the three spots that I'm really trying to pull away from, just to smooth out the voice. And me personally, because it's my voice, I hate it naturally. But I don't know what this is like for other people listening to my voice, if it's annoying the way it is for me. hopefully not. That's why I'm trying to just do as much as I can to, I guess, enhance and sweeten my vocal to make it as the least annoying as I think it can be. Then after that, I'm using the Waves RDSer. Yeah, so that's probably annoying. But I did that just so you can hear I'm doing S's specifically to make this de-esser turn them down a bit. Otherwise, it's going to be really annoying. And then after I'm done recording and I'm going to bounce this down, I put on this Isotope RX7 noise denoiser plugin, which has a lot of latency. Means it's like it takes a long time to process because it's doing a lot. So when I'm talking, if I talk into the mic with it on, there's going to be like almost a second delay of when I hear it. So that's going to be really hard to talk and listen to myself. So that happens after the fact, and that just helps because I'm recording just in my house and there's background noise. You can hear noise from outside in cars and things like that, and just room noise. So that helps to make my voice a little bit more isolated and dry, so you can just focus on it. It sounds like a bit more like I'm just in like a professional studio. And then finally, after that, sorry, then I put on a reverb of it's called Valhalla Vintage Verb, and I'm using a preset that's just an ambiance preset. It's not like something to sound like I'm in a hall or it's like a plate reverb. It's just like a tiny bit of room noise, and I have it down about as low as I can go. It's like the dry wet mix is at like 1%, so it's just enough to make it sound like I'm somewhere that exists. But it's pretty minimal, just because I use that denoiser to pull out everything in the background. So I need to just have something else a little bit back in just to make it a bit more natural. And then at the very end, I have like a limiter on the master just to make sure it's loud enough. It's up to the same standard as other podcasts people listening to, which I don't actually know what that standard is, what it's supposed to be, but I just do it by ear. So when I listen to other podcasts and I pop mine on too, then I can hear. I'm like, okay, for the most part, I'm in the same ballpark. So yeah, in case you wanted to know what I do, which I would bet that almost none of you care, but I thought I would share because after all, this is supposed to be an music engineering related podcast. So I seem to be not talking about engineering related things too much, but there you go. I mean, I don't ever get feedback yet. One day somebody is going to send me a message and tell me something that they might want me to address and talk about. But until then, it's a wild guess as far as what I should talk about. And so, by the way, I always forget to do this too. Where can you contact me? I think, all right, email is tlnol_podcast@gmail.com, I think, or I think tlnol_podcast at Twitter, maybe. I don't know. I think Talk Like No One's Listening podcast, TLNOL something dash or underscore podcast. You could, if you really want, if you care, you can figure it out and you can contact me if you have a question specific about anything and you want me to address it. I'm waiting. One of these days, I'm on episode 18. So hopefully maybe somewhere in the 20s, I will hear something. I will make contact with the outside world. But, until then, I'll just keep talking. I'll do what I do. Check you next time. Thank you. Peace.